Turn, Mr. Spock.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
There is an alien on board which may have created this situation.
Who cares what started it, Mr. Spock?
It is apparently capable of manipulating matter and mind.
I think we should just trust our president in every decision that he makes.
This is war!
There isn't any war!
You serious? I've got men in sick bay. Some of them dying. Atrocities committed on their persons. And you talk about making peace with these fiends.
The alien is the real threat. That's the enemy we have to wipe out. Has a war been staged for us, complete with weapons and ideology and patriotic drumbeating?
He used gas? But where did he get the gas? From us.
Recent events would seem to be directed toward a magnification of the basic hostilities.
And here is that agenda. The project for the new American century.
Much of what these men wanted is coming true. They urged that the U.S. abandon the anti-ballistic missile treaty. It has. They wanted establishment of more permanent U.S. military bases abroad. That is happening in the Philippines and in Georgia and will likely happen in Iraq. They urged regime change as a goal of foreign wars, not just in Iraq. They wanted the U.S. as a global constabulary, their word. Such aspirations are unlikely to be realized without a catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new Pearl Harbor.
Apparently, it is by design that we fight. We seem to be pawns.
But what's the game?
It's known as the Bilderberg Group. Could their objective be world domination?
We must push outward if we are to survive.
The Constitution has not given permission for us to so-called police the world.
We have always fought.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
As you've been listening to propaganda.
Shut up.
There's another way to survive. Mutual trust and help.
We ought to stay at home, mind our own business, trade with people, and be friends with people, and we all would be a lot better off.
There's an alien entity aboard the ship. It's forcing us to fight. We don't want to. We don't know what its motive is. We're trying to find out. You must help us.
It is most urgent that we locate the alien entity immediately.
The Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
Now do you believe? What is it you want? What are you doing here?
Kill the Klingons! It's never us, isn't it? Done!
When the lieutenant became unconscious, the alien lost energy.
It subsists on the emotions of others.
This one appears to be strengthened by mental radiations of hostility, violent intentions.
It exists on the hate of others.
To put it simply. And it has acted as a catalyst, creating this situation. In order to satisfy that need, it has brought together opposing forces in an effort to promote the most violent mode of conflict.
We've got to get rid of it.
Then all hostile attitudes on board must be eliminated. The fighting must end, and soon.
Or we're a doomed ship. We've got to pool our knowledge. We must find a way to defeat the alien force of hate, stop the war now, or spend eternity in futile, bloody violence.
It has to stop.
Look, gang, for the rest of our lives, 1,000 lifetimes, senseless violence, fighting, while an alien has total control over us. And it goes on and on, the good old game of war, pawn against pawn, stopping the bad guys. While somewhere, some thing sits back and laughs and starts it all over again.
He is telling the truth.
Be a pawn. Be a toy. Be a good soldier that never questions orders. This is Captain Kirk. A truce is ordered. The fighting is over. Lay down your weapons.
This is Kang.
Cease hostilities.
The cessation of violence appears to have weakened it, Captain. I suggest that good spirits might make an effective weapon.
Get off my ship. You're a dead duck here. You're powerless. We know about you. And we don't want to play. Maybe there are others like you around. Maybe you've caused a lot of suffering, a lot of history, but that's all over. We'll be on guard now. We'll be ready for you. So ship out.
Only a fool fights in a burning house. Out!
Thought Crime 7 put that together, I think, about 8 years ago. We can pull up the actual YouTube channel and show you when it came out. In fact, I'll just do that right now. I've got it right here in front of me on Infowars.com. You know, that was put out in 2009. At least this version was. On Chewbacca 2000. That's the name of the YouTube channel. 2009, so that's 7 years ago. I don't even know if that's the actual maker of it because a bunch of people have it. Nope, yeah, they didn't post it. That's a repost. That's what I said. It's only got like 300,000 views total on the 3 channels I saw it on. It needs like 50 million views. But there's an inverse to this, because then the UN and the globalists who create the balkanization and the divide and conquer and the war say, yes, global government peace, individuals turn your guns in, and then other nation states turn your guns in. Only the UN will be armed for peace. So they create all this war, start World War I, fund Hitler, start that. The globalists wrote books saying they bring in a UN, League of Nations, world government out of the wars. I'm not just saying this, they say it. And out of new conflict, they'll bring in even greater tyranny and control. So I'm not saying get rid of our military. I'm not saying turn in our guns, because the extreme of it is then, oh, yeah, we're against war. We see what a fraud it is. So then we become defenseless. So there's a balance there, because not everybody thinks like those of us that don't want a bunch of conflict. But that's how the globalists are getting the nation states into debt. It's how the Rothschilds in 1918 financed both Napoleon. They had families in 5 different countries. And in England, they then got the word across the channel. They had the fastest ship, and they used carrier pigeons to get to the coast. About 8-9 hours before the word got across, they said Napoleon had won, and the stock market plummeted. And then he was able to buy it up for pennies on the pound, and then dominated the British Empire that had just defeated Napoleon and controlled much of the world. And that's why we've been under a Rothschild-style system pretty much ever since. Then the British financed the Civil War, sent in British intelligence. This is all public, mainline history, just not pop history. It's not on PBS, but it is in mainline history books that British intelligence came and fomented the South. And by the way, I had family across the board that were Confederate colonels and generals, the whole 9 yards. So people listening in the South hear me saying this, they go, how dare you, you Yankee scum. You don't like the South. It will rise again against all the evils of the... The industrial North was cheating the South on tariffs. It was doing a lot of bad things. It was almost a civil war when President Johnson, who was a Southerner, was president. He stopped it. The South almost rebelled against Johnson. Not Johnson, Andrew Jackson. I've got, again, I had this root canal, and it hurts, so I'm having trouble enunciating properly today. And so the North was doing bad stuff. The war was not about slavery. That's true. It was a war of northern aggression. It was wrong. But British intelligence wanted to split the country in two, then ally with the South, and then basically end up controlling Western expansion. Instead of the U.S. taking over the rest of North America, they were going to have British do it. And they had a British fleet up off New York. They had a British fleet up off the coast of the U.S. and Canada in Maine. And they had tens of thousands of British troops stationed in Toronto threatening to invade. And the Tsar of Russia sent a whole fleet into New York Harbor to support Lincoln and said, if you do this, we're going to go to war with you. And it's the only reason that didn't happen. The British were going to reinvade the United States. And they fooled Southerners, ladies and gentlemen, suckered them into that war. And then the cause célèbre was, oh, slavery. The abolitionists since 1800 in the North and the South, where slavery was already going out. In fact, it was white people that started ending slavery worldwide. It was white Christians in Europe and in England and the United States that started ending it. It was going on in Africa. It was going on in Asia. It was going on. They called it serfdom and indentured servitude. There were white slaves, basically, and I'm not endorsing any of it. It was terrible. It's just that we haven't been given the real history. The real racism and the really hardcore stuff started after slavery with Jim Crow and all of that. But it was the West that began to end slavery. We should be proud of that. But instead, oh, the West gets no credit. The West is behind slavery. Arab countries still have slavery in North Africa and stuff, and it's not even, it's like, oh, that's cute. That's liberal because you're an Arab, you're a Muslim, so it's okay. I'm just sick of the ignorance. Okay, I said I'd go to your calls. I apologize, Nancy, Alan, Johnny, Ronnie, Logan. We're going to go to your calls right now. Let's talk to Nancy in Tennessee. Thanks for holding her on the air.
Hi, Alex. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty darn good.
That's terrific. I would like to see us create some kind of penalty for politicians lying. You have shown videos, okay, where Obama promised one thing, and then you jump ahead to the future, and he says exactly the opposite thing.
He says, I never said you could keep your doctor. And you have 50 videos or more of him saying you can keep your doctor, I promise. I'm not coming after your guns, not your handgun, not your rifle, not your shotgun. Then he comes after him. Absolutely. Total liar. Well, I mean, the people should be hopping mad, but we've been so conditioned to accept lies.
I'm a hippie from the 60s. I don't understand what's going on here. I mean, we protested more when I was in high school than they're doing now.
Well, a lot of it is people just are so selfish that they think it's weird to go out and protest. The controlled left has put out so many what I'd call kind of dirty leg, you know, dirty hippie. There's a lot of nice hippies, but dirty hippie images. And they've had provocateurs, you know, throw stuff through the local store windows. That's an old trick to demonize legitimate protests. They've done a good job of psyoping it. The biggest way to protest is with your dollars. Don't support globalist operations. Spread the word. Reach out to people across the board with the good news of freedom. I think that's how you bring them down.
You know, I had a nephew, and in his history book, it said that it portrayed the protests of the 60s like we were a bunch of spoiled brats. And never once did they say that we were out there protesting because the 18-year-olds were being drafted and you had to be 21 before you could vote.
Sure. No, they hired Ford Foundation people to spit on the troops and to do it on camera, and then they would go back and they work for the government. It's all been declassified. They ran a psyop, and they would have protests where people, you know, would urinate on businesses and things and then show it on the news. It was a psyop to demonize, and then they gave LSD to the hippies. They had Timothy Leary, who was FBI, come and lead the revolution to make it about drugs so they could then get young kids on drugs like it was stylish so they could then put them in prison. It's all been perfectly planned.
We need some kind of recourse against that. I want to challenge every hippie from the 60s that I protested with. I want them to get out there now and start complaining about what some of these things
But wouldn't that be racist? I mean, if they expose Obamacare, it's because they hate black people. That's what the Attorney General just said today. I mean, if you don't like Holder shipping guns to Mexico to demonize the Second Amendment and the false flag, just admit it, Nancy. It's because you don't like him because he's black.
Oh, come on.
Oh, I know. It's sick. It's sick. I mean, if he was a black guy promoting the Second Amendment, I would literally, you know, wash his feet. If there was a black guy like Ron Paul, I'd be giving him money and trying to get him to run for Congress. I could care less what color they are. That is the biggest stinking red herring I ever heard of in my life. I want freedom. That's what I want. And I'm sick of these race baiters injecting race on every issue. I appreciate your call. Hillary Clinton's taking heat from Democrats right now as Libya chaos creates terrorist safe haven. They act like it's a screw-up, though, in the conservative press. It wasn't a screw-up. It was a bipartisan battle plan that the neocons supported as well. We'll be right back with more calls, going to Alan and others.
We're on the march